Jennifer Kolb. She is the Director of Workforce Development at MedCerts. Jennifer has received formal training in psychology and has worked in workforce development for about 15 years. Throughout her time in workforce development, she has worked with sector strategies, project development, and curriculum development. Additionally, Jennifer Kolb is responsible for overseeing strategy and business development efforts at MedCerts, with an emphasis on employer partnerships, apprenticeships, youth programs, non-traditional talent, and grants.
My name is Nicole Hodges. I am the Regional Manager of Instructional Development and Design with Goodwill of North Georgia. I have been a part of the Goodwill of North Georgia family for the last 10 years.
Stephanie Johnson. She is a licensed practical nurse. She is a wife, mother of 3, and a LPN, a Florida native who is new to the Atlanta metro area. And in 2020, she started New Standard Learning Center, a certified nursing assistant training facility. The purpose of NSLC was developed from Nurse Johnson's desire to see her patients treated with love and respect. Absolutely. So she wanted to set a new standard of medical care that focused on altruistic and empathetic practice.
Tell us about your career path and how did you end up in your current role?
I personally am not patient-facing or in a clinical role in the healthcare system, but I do help people get into jobs in the healthcare space. So MedCerts, we are a training company. We have certifications, right? And so our goal is to find ways that people can get into the healthcare field, low cost, no cost, right? Not going into any debt. And I think, Stephanie, your story is so beautiful because that is what makes someone in the healthcare field, like having a story, having something that resonates. You have to have passion for being in the industry, right? You have to have a reason yourself because it's a hard job, right? Like there are a lot of hard things that come about being in healthcare, just like teachers, right? I always see that healthcare and education they're really similar. So, it's incredible to hear your story, Stephanie, but just a little bit about like just thinking what the healthcare industry looks like. I'd say one thing to consider is too, even if you aren't interested in being a nurse per se or a doctor per se, but you still are passionate about helping people, then there are a lot of other industries within the healthcare career. You could be in the front office. You could be someone that takes vitals. You could be in HR. You could be in janitorial services. You could be in food and
what is it like
beverage.
Working
they
in
have
this
event
industry?
planners. They even have people in real estate in the healthcare system. So a lot of different.
What is it like working in healthcare?
If you are focused on helping people, giving back, supporting loved ones, or you have that story that's drawing you to healthcare, but maybe don't want to be necessarily in a clinical role.
I have always had a passion for helping people. I started working with children with disabilities, primarily autism, upon graduation from college. My undergrad is in clinical psychology, and I have a bachelor's degree. I transitioned from working with children with disabilities to adults when I realized that there were a lot of resources for children. With everything that we know about people with disabilities, the adults, however, didn't necessarily have access to those same resources. So I became really passionate about working with that population that didn't have access to those new resources. I originally, as I transitioned to working with adults, started working more in a residential setting, but was looking for a different challenge. And so what brought me to this place in supporting people with disabilities in employment, being able to help people with those barriers that they have to employment, assisting with removing barriers to help them achieve success and giving them access to the training. So I was able to kind of meet my skills and abilities and my degree along with my passion of helping people. What I've realized is that, throughout the years that everyone deserves dignity, respect, and quality of life. And I am a part of providing access to that for people who maybe don't have access to that. I started working with a grant and then transitioned to direct staff and then eventually management and workforce development. Now in my current role as regional manager of instructional development and design, I'm responsible for developing curriculum for the training programs and the hard skills to help people upskill themselves and not only find a job, but a better job and a career.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Stephanie Johnson. First off, I am a nurse. I'm a licensed practical nurse. I ended up in my career path in my current role. I started off as a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, umpteen years ago. And I got into it because my sister was sick. It was just her and I. She was older than I was. And her and I were pretty young. I was about 18, 19. She was 21. She got sick with a rare cancer. And I saw her get mistreated in the hospital. Even though there were many people in the room, the nurse still did what she wanted to do. And that kind of put my foot in the door, I would say, to want to try to change something so I could help my sister. And I did not have something as great as this platform to kind of tell me about career paths or anything like that. So CNA is where I started. And then a nurse and an entrepreneur and a business owner is where I ended up.
What is a typical day in your role? Are there any misconceptions about what your job is like?
So typically you can think of healthcare careers in clinical and non-clinical roles, right? So a clinical role means you're going to be most likely patient facing. You are going to be interacting with someone. You might be checking vitals. You might be doing EKG or patient care tech or surge tech, right? Like you're hands-on in the healthcare realm. And from there, your career ladder just grows to being a nurse, an LPN, and doctor. And there, I mean, Stephanie could speak to it, I'm sure, better than I can. There are so many patient facing roles. And then on the other side, right, thinking of it as kind of like non-clinical, there could be like IT jobs, right? Professional coder is one that I think of in particular. You can actually start as a medical billing coding specialist, kind of like get your feet under yourself, get comfortable with it, and then continuously upskill yourself and get more and more certifications until you're a full professional coder. So there are a variety of pathways just like that in the healthcare bubble. It's kind of just thinking a little bit about like, what, when you get into a job, like, what do you want that job to look like? Do you want to be sitting at a computer? Do you want to be up and moving? Do you want to interact with the patients? And then you can kind of work backwards to find what energizes you, what gets you excited, and what kind of job and how much money you make and what your schedule looks like, right? You can kind of build that dream career backwards. Back to the CNA piece, I think another place to think about like where you could find a career with a CNA license is in home care, right? So you think in the hospital, you think in a nursing home, but also being someone that's going for in home care. That's a really strong career for someone in the CNA field. So just leave that there. You're, traveling, you're driving around your city, and you're really getting to know people and their families personally because you're going into their home to assist them. And then the other thing Stephanie said that I thought was a really good point is just, get a feel somehow of the industry before you just jump into nursing school. Nursing school is not cheap and it is a huge time commitment. And if you haven't had some in-person experience or had some kind of like hands-on experience in the healthcare field, it could really help you to do that before you go full-fledged into any sort of nursing program and potentially incur any type of debt. So I would encourage you to check out something like being a phlebotomist or being an EKG tech or being a patient care tech, right? Like those are programs that in 6 months or less, you can have a certification, you can get a job, and you can get some experience under your belt. And then most of big healthcare systems, big hospital systems have something called tuition assistance. It's a lot of times it's referred to as 5250. What that means is it's $5,250 that they will give you to go to school. So rather than paying for school out of pocket yourself, get your foot in the door with a healthcare system that provides that as a job perk and let them pay for your education, right? Like that's what those tuition benefits are for. They use it as a recruiting tool, and they use it as a retention tool, meaning they want you to get into their system, start working, and then upskill yourself and move up in that career ladder. So that's just kind of how I would answer that question, piggybacking off of what Stephanie said, and just think about like what is going to be the best process for you personally to get to an end goal, right? Like if you one day you want to be a nurse, you don't have to become a nurse overnight, right? Like there's a lot of different paths and a lot of stepping stones you can take to get there in a very affordable pathway.
A typical day in medical billing and coding, you are generally going to be on site in a billing office or in a hospital. You can find work from home opportunities, though they are few and far between until you have extensive experience in the industry. The typical day would be working with sometimes hospitals or doctors, also with insurance companies, and making sure that things are being billed and coded correctly. You also are working with those patients if there are issues in the coding that has occurred. As the industry shifts and changes with the introduction of AI is now doing a lot of the coding for medical billing encoders. However, this creates an opportunity for people to find other avenues of employment that are still connected to that industry. So what a lot of employers are doing is, instead of hiring people for coding, they are actually hiring people for auditing. Those people are auditing those codes that are being completed by the AI to verify its accuracy before that billing is sent out to their customers.
It's exciting. So at New Standard Learning Center, how our CNA course is set up is a hybrid course, right? So the first few hours of the coursework is all online, which we also provide laptops if the student needs those. And then the second part is in person, where they learn their skills. And then they go to clinical, where they actually exercise the skills that they are learning at the facility, at the site. And then after that, we don't stop at just teaching you CNA skills. Again, why got into this industry, because it hit home for me. So we teach life skills, we give workshops, we follow you through so that when you do get on your job, we make sure that you are happy there. We make sure that if there are any impediments at home that restricts you at work, we try to find ways. We have different partnerships to help them kind of regroup and get back on track. And then as far as my role, from a nursing educator side, I'm there to educate the students. So that's kind of a typical day. And then the CNA role in itself, they learn how to do vitals, which are blood pressures, how to take pulse, things like that, how to give baths, how to take weight measurements. So we're learning those things before we actually go out to practice them on actual people, make sure they're CPR certified before they get out there, and kind of get them comfortable before they take their licensure test, and then on their own.
What kind of education, training, or certifications does your job require?
High school diploma or GED for a program if you want to work kind of on your own pace. But if you are currently in high school, we do have programs that you can start as early as 11th grade. So we've got 15 different programs. And then, you can take the courses while you're in high school. So then as soon as you graduate high school, you're ready for a job. So you don't have to wait post-graduation. And we have a variety of programs in the clinical and non-clinical space. The only thing to keep in mind is, most healthcare systems want you to be 18 to do the clinical component. So if you do enroll in a program that requires a clinical to be certified, just kind of think about how old you are, and you'll probably need to be 18 around the time that you're going to sit for your certification, so you can go do the hands-on experience. So I saw someone dropped in the chat that they're about to start their phlebotomy course. Yes. Congratulations. But that's a perfect example, right? In order to be a phlebotomist, you have to have your pokes and sticks before you can be certified. So something to consider. But I will say that there are some healthcare systems that while you're going through a training program and you're working towards certification, they'll go ahead and hire you in a non-certified role. And then once you sit and pass for your test, you'll make a little bit more money and they'll put you into a certified role. So I see that pretty commonly for surgical technologists. They'll come in, they'll help you while you're doing your training. They'll help you get the hands-on practice you need. You'll take your certification exam. Then once you pass, they'll pay you a little bit more money and put you in a more formal certified position.
Interestingly enough, medical billing and coding actually does not require any kind of training or formal training or certification to enter into that industry. However, training and certification does make you much more marketable and create those opportunities for you to maybe get an employment opportunity over somebody who has no formal training and no experience. The Certified Professional Coders certification is one of the few certifications that is a nationally recognized credential that every employer recognizes, where you have completed a training and then sat for a board certification to demonstrate that you have a firm understanding of the medical billing and coding process.
So they're really basic.
What kinds of skills and personality traits are important for someone to have a successful job in medical billing?
Because of the employers that we work with.
You have to have great
able to pass the level 2
customer
background
service
check,
and great phone etiquette. A
and
lot
then it's
of
just a
your
brief
position
from
is
there. We need
spent
your
on the
ID,
phone, following
social,
up with
sign
customers,
up.
whether
We
that
are
is hospitals,
WILA
doctors,
certified at the
patients.
work source.
And so you have to have
in
that
your
great
county.
phone etiquette.
So
You
if
have
you
to
all
be
are
able to
eligible for any
diffuse
of that funding,
situations. So
we also
conflict
have payment
resolution is
plans.
really important, because
If-
quite
if
often you
anything
are
comes
dealing
up,
with
we
a
work with
customer who
everyone.
is
We want
unhappy because
everyone
they
who
have
has
now
the
received a
passion,
bill for
who
something
wants to be
that they
in
feel
the
their insurance should have
healthcare field,
covered.
who
And
wants to get
so
their
as a
foot in the
result,
door
you
to
have to be able to
absolutely come
diffuse
in
that
and get
situation.
your feet wet
So
to
you have
see
to have
if this
strong
is for
internal
you,
and
if
external customer
nursing
service.
or
You
any
have
other
to be able
hierarchy
to
there
work
is
with your
something
team.
that you want
If
to
there
go to,
are
because
things that
I
sometimes
am one
you
of
have never
those
seen
who is
before, whether
kind
it
of
be a
against the
diagnosis or a
machinery of going
procedure,
straight into
you
nursing
have to
school
be able to have an
without,
attention to detail.
kind of getting a
Because you
feel
are
of your
dealing
market.
with numbers and money and
What kind of
codes,
skills and traits are important for
there
someone to be
has to be an
successful in
accuracy
your
and
job?
attention to detail. You quite
I
often
think
have to
one
have strong
thing
critical
that I hear
thinking
from healthcare
skills
professionals
to be
that they
able
would
to
like to see
figure
more
out
of
and
in
kind
the
of read
industry
between the
is
lines sometimes
there are a lot of
with
words for it: durable
what you have
skills,
received
soft
from a
skills,
hospital, if it may not be
professionalism, right? So
clear as
you
to
might
what
already
the
have this down
procedure
pat,
was.
Janaya, so I might be preaching to the choir for you.
What
but
are good
I would just
salary
keep in mind,
expectations in
think of
medical
when you're
billing?
on campus at the healthcare
For
system, when
someone
you're doing your
coming into medical
externship, like
billing and
just
coding
think
with
about how
no
you're presenting
experience,
yourself.
the average salary
Externships
starts
are a
$17 to
phenomenal
$18 an
opportunity
hour.
for
Generally,
an employer
we
to
see a pay
say,
increase
we want to
within a
hire
year,
you, right?
and
It's kind of like you're
most
getting an
are
on the
making
job
upwards of
interview
$19 to
almost.
$20
So
an hour to
just kind of
start.
go into it with that perspective of, hey, am
All right.
I putting my
Last
best foot forward every
question.
day?
Ready
Am I
for
making
ready
sure
for
I'm
some good
showing up
advice?
on
Okay,
time?
so what
Am I
advice
using
do you
professional
have for someone
communication?
just
Am I
starting
building
out in their
rapport
career?
with the colleagues around me? Because I
Some
guarantee
advice
if
for
you do
somebody
those
starting out in
things,
their
you're going to have
career
a
is
job
that
at
your
the end of
journey
this
is your
externship.
journey.
So congratulations
Take
on
the
getting through your
opportunity to get your
training
foot
and
in the
starting that
door.
externship.
Paving. You have to have great customer service and great phone etiquette. A lot of your position is spent on the phone, following up with customers, whether that is hospitals, doctors, patients. And so you have to have that great phone etiquette. You have to be able to diffuse situations. So conflict resolution is really important because quite often you are dealing with a customer who is unhappy because they have now received a bill for something that they feel their insurance should have covered. And so as a result, you have to be able to diffuse that situation. So you have to have strong internal and external customer service. You have to be able to work with your team. If there are things that sometimes you have never seen before, whether it be a diagnosis or a procedure, you have to be able to have an attention to detail. Because you are dealing with numbers and money and codes, there has to be an accuracy and attention to detail. You quite often have to have strong critical thinking skills to be able to figure out and kind of read between the lines sometimes with what you have received from a hospital, if it may not be clear as to what the procedure was.
Skills and personality traits. Definitely, you need to know how to empathize and sympathize with someone. You have to first know if you are somebody who doesn't mind jumping in and being a team member, someone who is nurturing. That's not just a feminine trait. You have to be able to be open-minded and be able to learn how to move quickly, because things change very fast in healthcare. Somebody that morning can be doing very well, but they have diabetes and their sugar can drop at any moment, and you need to know what to do to be there to assist your nurse at any time. And the most important is you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And even if you're not one of those type of people who like to talk all the time, we don't need you to talk. The patient wants somebody to listen. And I'm one of those people, believe it or not, I don't really talk much. I talk when needed. And that's how I gain a lot of my rapport with my patients, because I just sit there and listen. And the sense of touch, it takes them very far. So, you got to be able to know when to talk, cut it on and cut it off. And then, again, I think passion is the biggest trait that you need, and be able to learn.
What are good salary expectations in your field?
For someone coming into medical billing and coding with no experience, the average salary starts $17 to $18 an hour. Generally, we see a pay increase within a year, and most are making upwards of $19 to $20 an hour to start.
What advice do you have for someone just starting their career?
Advice for getting into the industry is make sure you just explore all your options, right? If you don't know where you want to start, if you don't know what you want the long-term trajectory to look like, but you just want to know that you want to be in healthcare, right? I've talked to so many people that say like, oh, I want to be in healthcare. And then the first time they see blood, they're like, well, never mind. So I always say, well, if you want to wear scrubs, right, consider a front office job, or consider something a little different, but in the same industry. So I say just best advice is just have an open mind and know that there are so many paths into healthcare, and there are so many options to not have to go into debt, to not have to take out any sort of personal loan. There's so many ways to get into the industry, employers who will pay for it, community action agencies, your school, workforce offices. So healthcare really can be a career path that you don't have to go into debt to be a part of.
Some advice for somebody starting out in their career is that your journey is your journey. Take the opportunity to get your foot in the door, pave and create your own pathway to achieve your own personal and professional goals. Sometimes the salary is not what we're looking for to start, but there's so much opportunity with that employer. Do not allow objection to discourage you. Sometimes a no is actually not a no. It's just sometimes a not right now. Utilize those objections to further drive you toward achieving your goals.
One thing I ask my CNAs is, how did you come to this point that you said that you even want to be a CNA? Why do you want to get in healthcare? What resonates with you that you can hone in to that'll carry you up until you do want to get that doctorate, or you want to go to be a nurse, or you just want to use being a CNA to get a foot in the door to where you can make a living, but then you want to go and do psychology or get your master's in something else, you know. Why do you want to be in healthcare? And make sure that once you get in here that you stick with it and you're passionate, and remember that you are dealing with human beings.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Both of you all have really just been extremely motivational and inspirational, and just both of you all having programs too that will allow students to be able to explore these options, right? With support and with financial support and just everything that goes into healthcare. It's such an amazing industry, alongside many others, but healthcare specifically, you kind of just, it's like the jack of all trades, in my opinion. You know, you get to help people while also being able to also learn about medicine and just health in general. Like that's a double bonus. So I know we already have students that are kind of on that path, and that's super exciting to know. And I hope that everyone, all the students, you all got so much from Ms. Jennifer and Stephanie today. If you could please thank them in our chat, let them know how appreciative you are of their time today. And also, if I know Jennifer and Stephanie too, you both put in there the links to your programs, but if you also don't mind sharing your direct like email or a way that they can reach out to you directly if they have any other questions regarding healthcare and the process, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for having us. I wish we could see you all. I like to touch hands and
thank you so much. The link I dropped in the chat was not necessarily a link to sign up or anything. It was a link to explore career pathways. So if you check out that link, it starts with like an entry-level role, and then you can see how you can get certifications and upskill and grow within a career.